Okay, so I just want to make a disclaimer before starting this tutorial, just so that way I can make the main tutorial short as possible. So first and foremost, these are probably going to be questions that may be asked in the comments. I just want to make sure that these questions are answered ahead of time, in case, you are going to ask. If you are curious on a couple stuff, please listen to the disclaimer, but if you really just want to focus on just the VMC stuff, I'll leave it down below the exact time for when the tutorial actually begins. But either way, first and foremost, if you have hardware or software issues with your Rokoko gear, so if your mocap suit has bootloader issue, you cannot update your firmware, your wires are broken, your sensors are broken, or something looks jacked up in your mocap suit, or your hub on your mocap suit is lighting in red basically, or just something is wrong with your mocap suit, or the software is doing some crazy stuff, or it's bugging out like crazy, or your firewall issues are broken, or like messed up, or something, or your mocap suit is not connecting properly, please email support@rokoko.com because I cannot answer all these questions for you, sadly. That is Rokoko support team's job to do that, so please email them. I will leave the edited email here, so that way if you have to email, you can. Now, in case you're wondering about the email, basically, Rokoko hours, they are open Monday through Friday. Now, I live in the US, so basically, if you're a US person yourself, it is around 2 a.m. EDT is when Rokoko will be open, and then they close, or basically support team will basically be closed around 6, 8-ish, depending, 6, 8 a.m. EDT. You can convert that to your own time zone, basically, but just keep that in mind. If you're going to email support, those are pretty much going to be the expected times they may respond to you, but again, they may respond at different times depending. It depends, but that's pretty much just a primary time basically, so keep that in mind. I know emails can be a bit scary, but that's the best way. You can email support, best way. Now, if you're having issues with an irrelevant program like Unreal, Unity, iClone, Dev Studio, MetaHumans, or Ready Player Me, or well, that's not really a program, that's a character model, but either way, if you have a question about something irrelevant, I cannot answer those questions for you, especially the programs I mentioned. I do not have experience with them, so if you are having issues with Rokoko specific issues, please join the Rokoko Discord server. It's in the pinned comment. If you have an issue with VSeeFace, join Virtual D's Discord server as the creator of VSeeFace, which is Emiliana, as well as the co-creator of VSeeFace, which is Virtual D. Basically, they are there. Join the Discord server so that way you can be able to get some help with VSeeFace. If you're having issue with VNyan, please join Vtuber's Discord server so that way you can get assistance on that. Now, if you are mixing Rokoko gear, so let's say the popular mixing would be Rokoko gloves with a VR mocap, or Rokoko gloves with your iPhone setup, like the one I have here basically, but with Rokoko gloves. If you have questions on that, I would recommend you're going to have to do some self-experimenting. Now, if you're a VR mocap, you're going to have to use virtual motion capture, the paid version, or you can use Tracking World, which is free, but keep in mind, you're going to have to do some self-experimenting via VMC for that, and you're going to have to apply your knowledge. I cannot explain the exact step in this tutorial, so you're going to have to apply your knowledge for that. If you have issues on combining the mocap, again, join the VSeeFace Discord server, or just Virtual D's Discord server, or VNyan's dedicated server, which is Suvi's Discord server. In the description and pinned comment, you can join the Discord server there. If you don't have the Discord, you're gonna have to make an account for it. I would recommend, I know some people may dislike Discord, but that's the best way. You can get some help there regarding these programs. So yeah. If you're having Wi-Fi or firewall issues with your Rokoko gear, I would recommend please join Rokoko's, you could join Rokoko's Discord server, but I would recommend email support@rokoko.com to get some assistance with that. I cannot answer all Wi-Fi and firewall issues because the issue is way too complicated and above my knowledge. I cannot answer those questions. You could also join the other servers, as well, depending on where the issue really lies on, but again, you're gonna have to I would recommend join all of these servers, honestly, because you can learn a lot of 3D stuff here, but anything Wi-Fi or firewall issues, I may not be able to answer it, so keep that in mind. I only know so much. Now, I also, that's also the other thing, because I'm literally reading off a script because of how many times I literally messed up on this part. Keep in mind, I cannot answer every single question. There may be some answers, maybe some questions I could be able to answer. However, there are many 3D questions I may not be able to answer because of how complicated this can get, in a deeper level. And also depending on your specific situation. So, please keep that in mind. And I'm also not an official Rokoko employee. I am a Rokoko mod, however, but even then, though, I only know so much, so keep that in mind. And also, you are required to have the Rokoko Plus subscription, to basically follow along with this tutorial. Just want to mention that too. And last but not least, if you're using Rokoko Legacy, you're going to have to use Rokoko's VNC program made by Virtual D. I made a previous tutorial on that. I will leave that in the description if you want that tutorial instead. But if you're using a new version of Rokoko, you don't have to use a program, but instead, Rokoko has their own native VMC support. Now, that's a big disclaimer there. Holy heck. Without further ado, let's begin the darn tutorial. And also, last but not least, if you have no idea how to use the Rokoko software or anything like that, please look up the Rokoko YouTube channel. I'll leave that in the description too. But please, if you are confused on how to do Rokoko stuff, please follow along with Rokoko's tutorials. I know it can be messy finding certain tutorials, but please watch those tutorials. You'll learn a lot of new stuff as well. Again, I want to try making the main tutorial as short as possible, so yeah. But without further ado, let's begin the tutorial, and if there's any other questions, you may ask them in the comments, but I would recommend join the Discord servers. They will help you out. But without further ado, let's begin. Okay, so let's start with this tutorial. Now, I will mention, if you're an absolute beginner or you're a beginner, I don't recommend continuing on with this tutorial unless you know what you're doing. Please check out the Rokoko YouTube channel, and also please join the Discord servers in the pinned comments so that way you can learn more about the dedicated program, whether it's VSeeFace, VNyan, or Rokoko. But either way, I want to make this tutorial as fast as possible, so let's get started. So, you have your mocap suit and your glove setup, or just your gloves or anything like that, depending on your setup, basically. You want to send that data into VMC using the newest version of the Rokoko plugin. Let's get started. But also, remember, you're going to need Rokoko Plus subscription to get started with this. So, if you don't have a Rokoko Plus subscription, you're unable to do this tutorial. It's the same thing also with the Rokoko the VMC program as well. You need to pay for Rokoko Plus. Rokoko Pro is also an option too, but Rokoko Plus is pretty much the minimum of what you have to pay to get the live stream features. So please keep that in mind, basically. So yeah. But either way though, let's say we have our mocap suit and glove data here. For me, I don't have my mocap suit on, so I'll just have this animation running on loop, so that way we can transfer this over to the dedicated programs. So in order to get VMC set up, what you're going to do is you're going to click on the live streaming tab right here. You're going to go all the way down to the gear button here, and then you're going to click on the data format. Now, if you're a VR chat person, you can use the VR chat protocol, but again, Rokoko has their own dedicated tutorial on how to do VR chat stuff. There's also JSON if you're going to use those, but there is a VMC protocol here. Click on VMC, and then for the port number, you're going to set to whichever number it is. I'll leave the two numbers. I should have video edited here for the two main numbers that I personally use, but there's the main number that most VMC programs use, and then there's a number that I use because it's easier to remember, which is 4 threes, basically. 3333. But that's basically the number I have here, and I'm going to use that number so I can basically transfer it to VSeeFace or VNyan. But it could be any number basically for the port number, as long as VSeeFace and VNyan has the same exact number. Now, besides that though, you're going to click on the activate button right here, so that way you can activate the live streaming. And now we're going to go ahead and transfer over to, we're going to start off with VNyan, and then we're going to go into VSeeFace, and I'll show you how to set up the VMC for those programs so you can get your Rokoko tracking on. So here we are inside of VNyan, and we're going to get started on quickly getting the mocap tracking going. Now, if by any chance you have the arm sway graph on like what I have here, which I do have a tutorial that shows you how to set up the arm sway graph that's made by Heavy, basically you should have a hotkey set up for that. Again, if you're an absolute beginner, please don't watch the tutorial, please watch a different tutorial so you can familiarize yourself with VNyan. But if you have the arm sway graph, because the arm sway graph treats the arms as if physics are there, you're going to have to disable that. And basically what you're going to do, and of course my Rokoko Mocap is on right now, but basically what you're going to do is you're going to go into general settings. You don't have to set up the arm angle at all, because the VMC receiver will basically have that triggered. Basically, it'll override it. So basically, depending on which receiver you want, you're gonna have to make sure you set your value there. Again, I have the number here. This is basically the default VMC port number that most programs use, and then I have my secondary one, which is for me to easily remember in case I use multiple VMC stuff. But basically, these are the main two numbers that I personally use. VNyan has multiple, they have 4, so if you're gonna combine some crazy VR and Rokoko stuff and all that, you can utilize these receivers. But basically what you're going to do is that, pretty much, if you're using, let's say iFacial mocap, right? So I just want to cover the face capture first before body. So face capture, if you're like me who's too broke for the Rokoko face capture app, because iFacial mocap is an $8 perpetual program or app, and then VTube Studio is also free to use, and then Meowface is also completely free. There's Face Motion 3D, but Face Motion 3D is a little bit more expensive. Has some slight benefits, but honestly iFacial mocap is, you know, much nicer. But and also cheaper, but basically, I'll have iFacial mocap here, or Face Motion 3D. For Face Motion 3D, you're gonna have to buy the Other subscription. It actually literally is named Other. There's a subscription specifically for that. I recommend buy that so you can use it on VNyan and VSeeFace much more easily. So basically, you're going to make sure that the apply head and neck sliders here are set to 0. That way the Rokoko data will be utilized fully. Hey, Kana here. Did a little bit of a recording error in this section, but allow me to at least elaborate. So first and foremost, if you have any plans on combining Rokoko gloves with your, you know how like, for people who cannot afford the entire mocap suit, but they still want the Rokoko gloves, because the Rokoko gloves are technically better than the Leap Motion. First of all, I'm gonna look at you straight in the eyes and be like, what the heck are you thinking? Because I don't recommend that at all. But if you really want to, well, I will say, in general settings though, pretty much if you want to do something like that, you're gonna have to make sure, that pretty much everything here is set to 1 instead, so you can have your iPhone tracking. And then for the VMC, when you have the Rokoko tracking enabled with your gloves and such, make sure that you disable the extra stuff. So basically, the head, neck, and spine, because those are, because Rokoko will be sending VMC data of the default pose while the hands are tracking, basically. So make sure you disable all the extra other sliders, basically, according to, like, what you want tracked, though. But I will say, again, I do not recommend doing iPhone-only capture in the glove. Yeah, I've experimented that before, and those experiments were pretty fun. But I will tell you, you're going to have very intense drifting issues if you do that, and you're not going to like it. In fact, you're going to complain to Rokoko support and be like, why is there so many drifting issues when there's a lot of... I can't explain every little issue, basically. All I can tell you is I don't recommend it, but if you really want to do it, then take the risk and all that. So, yeah. If you want to get better Leap Motion stuff, please get a chest mount. Those things are like $10 on SD, so, yeah. Anyways, let's continue. Make sure if you have a Leap Motion, please make sure your Leap Motion checkbox is disabled here so you don't have weird fingers. But basically, if you set up the VMC here, which mine is, Rokoko is coming from this receiver, it could, for you may want to have it, receiver 1 with this number. But basically, you'll have it where basically, if it's for gloves only, is what you want, make sure that everything is set to 0 except the arm-related sliders here. That way your gloves can still work, but you can still have your VR or your iPhone tracking working perfectly fine. But again, this really depends on the setup you're going for, basically. So I would experiment with the sliders here, basically. But this will allow you, so certain parts can be disabled, basically. So let's say I want my head to track with the iPhone, but the Rokoko has the body, basically. You can do that, see? iPhone is moving my head, but Rokoko is taking over my body. So, yeah. So there's that, and that's pretty much that in a nutshell on how to do the whole... and I'll also increase the animation here real quickly. But basically, that's pretty much in a nutshell the VMC stuff. Should be pretty simple. Now let's go over VSeeFace though, so that way, because again, if you have any other issues with VNyan or Rokoko, join the dedicated servers depending on where your issue lies on. I'm going to say that again. But anyways, let's go into VSeeFace now and get our, get Rokoko into VSeeFace. Oh yeah, before we actually go into VSeeFace, I almost forgot. If you are someone who actually can afford Rokoko Face Capture, which again, Rokoko Face Capture is basically the same exact quality as VTube Studio and iFacial Mocap face tracking, because the AR kit is nothing new. But either way, I will say, if you by any chance have it and you want to use it, please make sure that your blend shape tracking inside VNyan is set to replace. You can use biggest value depending on which best works, but I personally use replace for the face capture. But again, I personally prefer using iFacial Mocap because it's cheaper, $8 perpetual. I'd rather go for that. So, yeah, sorry for this thing on Rokoko like that, but yeah. But of course, if you don't want it to track, you can disable tracking. But yeah, I just want to at least make sure that is mentioned in case someone is going to ask about the face capture stuff. So, anyways, let's get to VSeeFace. Okay, so here we are inside of VSeeFace. I will now show you how to set up Rokoko inside of VSeeFace. So, first and foremost, you're going to go into settings. And by the way, if you're an absolute beginner in VSeeFace, I have a VSeeFace Ultimate Guide that'll show you how to use VSeeFace. But again, join the dedicated Discord servers, depending on the program that you're having issues with or you need help on. So go to General Settings. Then, over here, you're going to click and drag the UI here. Scroll all the way down, and as for face capture, if you want to use iFacial Mocap, VTube Studio, or Face Motion 3D, or any of the programs listed here, Meowface also applies, but that's going to be done with a different solution. I will make sure the official Meowface tutorial is linked in the description for that. But basically, for VSeeFace, if you want it to mix with Rokoko, you're gonna have to disable the head movement. And if you have eye bones, if you're like a Roy Mall with Hanatool blend shapes, basically, you can keep the eye gaze on. For me, I have blend shape eyes, so I even with this disabled, I can still move my eyes. But if by any chance you're just it depends on who made your blend shape. Basically, sometimes your blend shapes, sometimes your eyes are either bone based or blend shape or both. It depends. But for the most part, you can have this enabled though. But I usually have it disabled. But either way, so basically you can have your face capture here, right? And then right here under receiver, basically, you'll type the number that corresponds to whatever number you want. Mine is 3333 because I want to keep the number simple. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically disable the head and neck, the fingers, wrists, hands and shoulders, spine, chest, and the lower body. And therefore, I have the Rokoko mocap in VSeeFace. Pretty simple. Again, it depends if you have your firewall set up properly. Make sure if the firewall pops up, say yes. So yeah. And of course, the benefit of VSeeFace is that there is a bone smoothing slider in VSeeFace. So, because by default, it'll probably be pretty jittery. But if you want it to be a bit more smoother, you can definitely increase the slider so your tracking will look even better with Rokoko. I know Rokoko is going to be having a smoothing filter coming up, so I don't know if it'll apply to live stream, but whenever that update pops up, if it works with live stream, use that instead. Otherwise, if it doesn't work with live stream, then just use this slider. For VNyan, there is no VMC bone smoothing though, so it's gonna be a little different for VNyan, which I'm not really sure of the best method for that, but for me, the Rokoko mocap looks pretty smooth already, so I'm fine with Rokoko on VNyan. But either way, for VSeeFace, however, we can utilize the slider. It's a really good benefit. Same thing with your face capture. If you're using Rokoko face capture at preference, you can use the blend shape smoothing to increase the blend shapes from the Rokoko face capture, which you're gonna have to disable the face tracking features if you want to use the Rokoko face capture properly, so it can be sent. So yeah, but either way though, I usually just have these enabled if I'm using iFacial Mocap or Face Motion 3D with VSeeFace. So yeah. But either way, that's pretty much in a nutshell. And again, if you want to mix the Rokoko gloves with VR or just mix it with your default setup, you can actually utilize, if you're just going to have your default iPhone or even webcam movement with the Rokoko gloves, you don't need a second VMC receiver, you're just gonna have to self-experiment with that regarding the setup. So play around with your settings and all that. But for VR mocap, you may need to have a secondary VMC receiver protocol. That way you can receive the VR mocap data as well as the Rokoko glove data, depending on your setup. Do note there may be some issues, but either way, it should be fine though. But pretty much in a nutshell, once you have your setup done, you should be able to have your Rokoko data working on either VNyan or VSeeFace, depending on your program of preference. Again, you don't have to use VNyan, you don't have to use VSeeFace, I guess. It really just depends on which program your preference is on. But either way though, that's pretty much in a nutshell how to set up VMC. There may be some other VTuber programs as well that do support VMC, by the way, that I may not know of. So for those programs, please apply your knowledge. But if there's no VMC set up for that said program, or no Rokoko support, you can ask the devs on that specific program if they could add the support for it. Otherwise, if they say no, please respect that wish. But just wanted to at least mention that in case someone asks for a different program that's irrelevant. But either way, I hope you guys have a lovely day though. Again, as what my disclaimer has mentioned, there's a Discord servers in the pinned comment. There are different tutorials you can definitely watch. I'll leave my a couple of examples of some of my tutorials or some other tutorials I would recommend watching in the description below. Again, if you have issues with anything else, like if you have issues with your Rokoko gears and all that, either Discord server for Rokoko or support at Rokoko.com. But either way, I'll leave my socials here. I hope you guys have a lovely day, and I hope that this tutorial helped you out on setting up VMC, and if by any chance it doesn't help you, I deeply apologize. And I would just recommend self-experiment. But either way, I hope you guys have a lovely day. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye!